Hey YouTube, today our video is going to be about frozen thawed rats, specifically how we make frozen thawed. That does mean that we are going to have to euthanize several of these guys to show you that process. We're not doing it to be mean. We think it's important that you know where your feeders come from and how that process is made. Also, if your collection is growing to the point that you're breeding rodents, you may have to freeze some off for the lean times as well. So we do want to share that with you, but we understand if you don't want to see that process, and if you don't, maybe you should skip this video.
Hey ballers, it's Curtis with Olympus Reptiles, and the video we did just previous was all about frozen thawed versus live when you feed your snakes. So today I thought we'd talk about just basically frozen thawed. You know, where they come from, how the different ways you can, gas them off or you can euthanize them, and then the best ways to do that, or what we found out. Basically what you're going to do is you're probably either going to go to a pet store and pick them up from what they have there in stock, or you're going to go online and order it and get it shipped in. But they all kind of start in the same place. It's going to be a place that breeds rats. It could be, a smaller rat breeder. It could be one that breeds, thousands upon thousands of rats, every week. So the first thing is basically you have to have some type of tub or somewhere to put the rats. And what I found out is having a nice clean tub is the best way, because when you get the rats and everything, you don't want to have them all dirty. You want to have them as clean as they can, so when you give them to your snake, they're not dirty. So after each use, I usually go and clean the tub, wipe it out. You need a few holes in there, but you want the holes up high. Like we have a few holes here, and then there's holes on the lid. So when you basically what we use is carbon dioxide or CO2. And basically this is the same gas that you exhale when you breathe. You breathe in oxygen and then you exhale, CO2. There are a couple of different ways. This one is just a canister of CO2. We go to a local place here in town that sells gas and pick it up. There's a couple of different types. This is a food grade, so it's a little bit cheaper. We don't need a food grade one. Would be a lot of people use these for kegerators, or if you have your fountain machines at a gas station, they use carbon dioxide. So we just buy the basic stuff, not the food grade. Or you could actually use dry ice. What you would do is put a small bowl in there with a piece of dry ice on there, and you pour water on it, and as it melts, it evaporates, and all that CO2 comes off, and you can see it as a gas. I've done that before. The thing I found out with that, what I didn't like, is that CO2 gas coming off is a little bit wet, and what happens is it gets the rats, and the rats are being pretty wet after you do that. And then you don't know, should you pour a little bit more water? Is that not enough water? And it's just kind of hard to tell doing it that way. But that is a total possible way if you don't have a CO2 canister anywhere to do that. We used to pick up our dry ice at Walmart. So basically we just use a canister like this that has a hose on it. So the next thing that we need to do is basically just get some rats. I have a tub here. I've been cleaning today, and these are, once I clean, I pull out the smalls, and either we put them in a rack like this to sell, or, the extra ones I'll end up gassing off. And usually what I do is I wear gloves, because they can get a little dirty.
One quick thing to add, what do we do with the gassed off ones?
The gassed off rats?
Yes.
You put them in a freezer. And
sell them, right? Or use them?
Yes.
We're not gassing them off just to get rid of them?
No.
Okay.
And usually I try to fill up the tub. If I'm going to use gas, I don't want to gas off just a couple, because it's kind of a waste. I usually put about 15 or so in here. So now we got 15 rats in there. Go ahead and close the lid, and then we'll come over here. But like I said, the CO2 gas is actually heavier than oxygen, so it's going to settle down here and it's going to push the oxygen out. And what you don't want to turn on the gas and have a big blast of air, because it'll kind of scare the rats. You want to kind of start out, if you can, just by slowly letting it in there. And they are going to kind of start moving around a little bit more. And usually what I do is I leave it so you can see like how they're kind of starting to slow down now. And you can see the gas is kind of having an effect to them. So let's go ahead and shut that off. And usually it takes anywhere from like 5 minutes or so, or it could take a little bit longer. And one thing too, these are small rats. If you're gonna do, let's say like pinky rats or something like that, it's a lot smaller. They're gonna take a lot longer for that gas to take effect before they pass away, because they just breathe so much slower, and their oxygen intake is a lot less than what these guys are. So they usually take a lot longer for them to pass away. Okay, so it's been about 5 minutes, and you can see that they've all passed away. So the next thing is we're going to get them, you know, kind of packaged and everything. And what I found out is the first time I did this, I took the rats, and what I did is take them and put them in the bag and put them in the freezer. The next thing I know, when I go to get them out, they're all frozen in one big block. And so then you have to thaw them all out instead of just picking. If you want to only have, like, say 2 or 3 at a time, you know, it didn't work out that way. So then what I found is a cheap way to do that is take some saran wrap, and basically what you do is just take the rat and wrap them in saran wrap, and just make sure that they're covered, so then when you put them in there, they're not all sticking together. There's a barrier in between each rat, so that you can take them out individually and not have to take them all at once. Or you could also put them in little baggies. This is what we actually do here at the shop, because when we sell them up front in a freezer, and people can just come grab what they want. So you just put them in the bag, you know, make sure the air's out of it. And just, you know, package them like that. You can fill this up and then put it in your freezer, and then as you need them, you can just take them out and go and thaw one rat out, or how many you need. They'll last probably, I wouldn't want to keep them in there too long. You know, once you start to get close to a year or so, or you can start to see they might get like a little, like, kind of moisture on them or frost bite. You don't want to keep them any longer than that. But it's a really good way, if you do have extra rats, to kind of keep them to where, like, if you keep these, you have to put them in a tub or put them in a cage somewhere. Then you have to continuously feed them, and they're not going to stay this size. They're going to grow and get bigger. Well, if you need more rats of this size, then it's a good thing to go freeze them off. So basically, that's how we do frozen rats. There's probably some other methods out there that people use, but this seems to be the easiest for us. The gas we get, I can gas off, you know, hundreds of rats before it runs out, and I have to go get a fill. And I think it's about $25 or so for to fill a tank like that. So basically, that's all I have. Do you have any questions, Matt?
I do. Some of the concerns, which we kind of covered in our last video about feeding live and frozen, a lot of it comes down to how humane is it to feed live. You've seen a lot, almost as many live feedings as I probably have, and you've definitely seen a lot more gas euthanasia than I have. Would you say there's a huge difference in how quick the death occurs, or the average death of the rat?
Not really. When we see a live feed with like a ball python or a constrictor, it's usually pretty quick. With this, it's about the same. It takes, like, you know, like I said, 5 minutes, and they just usually kind of fall asleep. So I think they're both pretty much the same. I wouldn't want to take them, and I don't know, this is probably the easiest way I'd find to gas them, or to euthanize them, to freeze them.
Are there other methods you've heard of?
Just other methods of using, like I said, using the dry ice.
Okay. You would never recommend, like, the method that I was told whenever I was a young kid, of just braining them, smacking them really hard in the head?
Not really, because that sometimes won't do the job, and you might have to do it a second time. And then if that happens, then usually you get the rats all bloody, and you'll get blood coming out of there. And you know, then if you like, what I always try to think is like we're selling these to our customers, and they don't want to grab a bag with a frozen rat in there that's all bloody, and you know, I wouldn't want to sell someone something like that either. So I would not recommend, you know, taking a rat and like trying to bash its head or anything like that.
Plus the system will be made. Right?
Yeah, and when you're doing this, you can make like a smaller chamber if you only have to do a few at a time, so you don't have to use so much gas. Or if you have to do a bunch of them, you can build a bigger chamber too. Well, I just found out, you know, maybe 15, and it depends on the size of the rat too. You know, I'm not going to put 15 larges in here; that'd just be way too many. And I'm not going to just put, you know, 15, you know, pinkies in here because that would just be way too small of an area for them. So the size of rat and the number of them is basically how big of the container you want to use. Any other questions?
That's all I got.
Well, thank you guys for watching. I know this probably isn't for everyone, but this is something that, you know, we get some questions about and something that you should know. It's kind of like if you're going to the store and you're buying hamburger. It's nice to know where that comes from. You know, it comes from a cow. You know, not too many people go and, you know, get their own cow and prepare it in a hamburger. Not too many people do this, but it's good to know, you know, how the process is done. So thanks for watching.
Have you turned your own meat into hamburger before?
Yes.